Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Rem and Sam podcast. I don't really know what we're doing here. We're supposed to be a sports show. There's just no sports going on right now. The Olympics have finally wrapped up. Closing ceremonies were this weekend. There's a tie for the gold medal first place country. China and the U.S. tied. Seems like a tense year for that to happen, but maybe it's maybe it's for the best that nobody came out on top, Oz, in that situation, and that both countries can just kind of walk away from the Olympics feeling like they won something. But shout out to a really, I think, a pretty fun Paris Olympics. I was going back and looking through it, man. The some of the old Summer Olympics this past week, and the 2012 Olympics was pretty. I mean, the basketball team was obviously sick. Bolt was at the height of his powers that year. Phelps is still. I mean, the '08 Olympics was obviously Phelps's peak, but he's still at the peak of his powers. I mean, it's Phelps. He had a long run, but 2012 might still have been the best one. And 2016 was still really good as well, too. But the Paris one slides in. Great grade on it. Pretty entertaining all the way around. But we're running South Park in the background right now. Unfortunately, we just missed Paid in Full on Pluto, but Dead Presidents on next. It's a close call, but I think we're going to go with South Park for now. Or maybe not. I don't know. It's a it's a little discouraging. Nothing is ever going to be better than South Park. So do we want to watch it? We'll keep it on for inspiration. Chef is on. This is going to be good. This is the episode where they're trying to figure out why Timmy is struggling in school. I wonder why that could be, but maybe it's the cooperation. Who knows? We'll keep you updated on what happens at the end of the episode with our guy Timmy. But like we said, the Olympics did wrap up this weekend. Of course, the USA wins gold in, overall pretty dramatic fashion, which I mean, I think we're all glad that the games ended up the way they did, because I mean, this is the newer, our version in our lifetime anyways of the dream team. All of these athletes, these main star just athletes that we've had in our lives for a long time at the kind of tail end of their runs as well. Well, not kind of tail end, but you just don't know how many years you're going to get with these guys. And then just the league as well too. It's not like they can have amazing seasons and then other guys are just having insane seasons around them as well too. But if it is another dream team like team where it just crushes through the Olympics and blows everybody out of the water and it's not even close in any of the games and there's really no drama, like I guess that is cool. And I'm sure if that's happening, that at least in those early minutes anyways, that the starting lineup and them all is cooking. But like even in a couple of the pool play games where I forget which team in specific, but I remember one of the pool play games, Booker led the team in scoring, which Booker was amazing, of course. But there was another pool play game where I think Bam Adebayo led the team in scoring, but it was just because, the bench was playing at the end of the game and there was no need to run the main guys, which in the gold medal games, maybe in the medal rounds, you just keep the lineups out there. But there is also the NBA season to balance. So who knows just, what kind of moments we get with those guys on that stage if they just crush everybody. But it is good that, the world has caught up the way that it has, because to get these high drama games and to get the moments, I mean, again, for LeBron and Steph and KD, obviously it's not going to be the main highlight of their career, even though this is like a pretty, I think, significant just for their careers overall, like a pretty significant moment for them, definitely. But I mean, definitely within the last 5 years, the most significant moment that they've all probably had. I guess, Steph won the finals in there. LeBron won the finals as well, too. But I mean, LeBron won the finals in front of nobody. There was no fans there to witness it. Of course, they didn't even have the parade. Steph had his finals, got his finals MVP, but the last 5 years outside of that, he's missed the playoffs 3 times. And the only other time they missed or made the playoffs, it was a second round exit. In Durant, the last 5 years has had 4 seasons where he's played under 55 games. In 2 of those years, he's been swept in the playoffs in the first round. There's that Boston sweep in there, excuse me, and the sweep this past year. in the playoffs as well. So again, LeBron and Curry getting the title is still significantly, from a basketball standpoint, probably more significantly more significant than a gold medal. But again, to be in these competitive games and to have moments where the guys did have to actually like legit step up and clutch through and like show up in the big moments. It wasn't even too that just the games were close because USA was like we were talking about, because they were sloppy and because they just, it was bad games, and Steph and KD managed to hit a couple of shots at the end of the game and they just pulled it out because they're talented. It's like, no, they actually had to go in their bag. And Steph definitely did do that a little bit. He was chucking up shots there at the end. The last three that he hit was, I mean, definitely just insane. But they were actually having to play well, having to execute, having to run like real, and having to like make real decisions about who's going to get the ball in this moment, who's going to take the shot. Like in that Serbia game, I mean, it was like, oh yeah, we need a bucket here to put the game away. Durant's going to get the ball. Again, even in a situation where they're struggling, there's still, I mean, the basketball IQs of all these guys, the maybe similar situations play out, but just because of the elevated moment, it was great to watch all those guys. And again, for where they even finished at in the playoffs last year, like I don't know if you could necessarily say that LeBron and Steph and KD were impacting. I will say the playoff picture. They were definitely impacting the league last year. Obviously, I mean, great players are going to have impact on the league every year, but the playoff picture, none of those guys made it into the conference final rounds. And those were still the three main guys for Team USA. And it's because of the pedigree, but we're still talking about their standing in the league. It's impressive and still a little confusing as well. As like, hey, what has happened in the playoffs the last couple of years? Because like Phoenix, for example, I mean, you've got Durant, who again is the go-to bucket maker. Was that a pool play game, or was that like a exhibition game where he was 7 for 7 in the first half and just had an insane shooting performance? I think that was the first pool play game that they had where he just off the bench went insane. But Booker as well too ended up being one of the more important guys on the team. Both those guys are on Phoenix, and Phoenix wasn't really a threat at any, but I mean, the only reason they were a threat was because of those two guys. But it's like, yeah, there's no situation really where I get, no situation is probably harsh, but we get where we're saying, like, there was probably very few timelines out there where the Suns were winning the NBA finals compared to a lot of these other teams. And that does have a lot to do with, one, like we've always mentioned, of course, the depth of the league and the impact of the CBA. But, watching that Serbia game as well, too, and seeing Jokic, I mean, it just time and time again, Jokic's greatness just continues to impress. And all of those teams have lost to Jokic as well, too, in the playoffs. I mean, you've got LeBron gets beat by Jokic every year. Did the Phoenix Suns lose both of those playoff series the last couple of years with Durant and Booker to the Nuggets? I think they might have. They lost. Oh, no, that's right. They got swept by the Timberwolves this past year. My bad. But they got beat by the Nuggets in the 22-23 season by 6. And remember, Durant and Booker played well that year in that series as well, too. Put up a couple of 40-point games. But I mean, LeBron and AD as well, too. I just, the respect that they have gotten as finals competitors in the league the last couple of years, I think has been off. And I don't know how much of it is going to carry over into the season. I mean, you watch LeBron this year and you go, okay, he's going to be, or in this Olympics, and you go, he's going to be right back on track this year to at least where he, at least in that range where he's been at the last couple of years, that third team All NBA. And then in the playoffs, it's like still a guy you want to go to at the end of games. It seems like he's still on pace to be that. But again, you just never know if even the slightest step back, what that looks like. And just the regular season, and if their standing falls even a little bit more, just the playoff road just continues to get a little bit rougher. I mean, what if they're playing games on the road versus at least they get a couple of playing games at home last year? So, there's always those little factors as well. But, I get the fact that they were swept by the Nuggets, but with as close as those games were, I think the Lakers were, if they get past the Nuggets, the experience that LeBron has, the youth that's in the Western Conference especially, it'd be hard to bet against LeBron in any of those playoff series. And you can't just say that if they beat the Nuggets, they're going to be in the finals. But in my mind, I don't know if I would pick them to lose against anybody. I mean, last year, it's maybe a little different than 2 years ago, especially because Minnesota was playing at such a high level defensively. And OKC and Shea, they don't really have a Shea stopper in the backcourt. I mean, they don't really have an Edwards stopper either. They have the Timberwolves have a lot of people to throw it, like they were doing with Murray and Jokic. A lot of people to throw at Davis, a lot of people to throw at LeBron. So I mean, the Timberwolves were a bad matchup for everybody except the Mavs last year. I mean, last year was just really crazy with I feel like how some of the results went down. But LeBron and AD were definitely in that mix. Like if we were to re-tier the teams from the last couple of years, I feel like you have to put them as title contenders versus that next tier or even the tier below that where it's like in the hunt on that, whatever you want to call the weird tiers that you end up making. But they always seem to be in a couple of tiers down. It's like, no, I think because of the way LeBron and AD and LeBron especially is able to just be at the end of these games reliable and as consistent as he is, it's just you have to put him in there with the rest of the guys in the league as he can still be one of the two guys, obviously, that can take your team to a finals. But as a guy on this Lakers team specifically, I think that team had to, at least, again, looking back at the last couple of years, I feel like they've been a little bit undervalued. But it's hard to say after you get swept in the playoffs the last couple of seasons. But Booker as well, too, like we mentioned. I mean, I feel like there's very few people that had a lot of or have as much Booker stock as we've had over here the last couple of years. I mean, I was looking at his MVP bet going into last season at 17-1 as kind of like a sneaky best bet. Like it was too low. And then I think it immediately dropped after the first couple of games. And then, I mean, you could tell right away. I mean, the narratives start to form pretty quickly and there could be some sort of monstrous end of the season push that guys can have. But I mean, a lot of it too, it's like you kind of have to go start to finish and have a pretty monstrous season to win the MVP. So it was like, okay, pretty clear that maybe this isn't the MVP season for Devin Booker, but I don't necessarily think that he was a final five guy for this Team USA team just because of his shooting either, which is kind of his off-ball ability was kind of a thing that was like, okay, in the way he's able to space the floor, we put him out there with Steph and that offense that lineup is able to generate is really valuable. But I mean, Holiday proved that he was a consistent shooter in this Olympics as well, too. And, Edwards, maybe not so much, but in theory, he could have been. But for Booker to be out there over Holiday for as many minutes as he was, I thought that really spoke to the defense that Devin Booker played. And we've seen him in the playoffs as well, too. At times, last year was just kind of a bad year for the Phoenix Suns all the way around, but we've definitely seen him in the playoffs go up extra levels defensively. And, I don't know if he would ever be an all defensive level guy for a season. I just think at this point in his career as well, too, again, with narratives, like it just gets established that Devin Booker is not known as a defensive guy. Could he turn that around enough in the next couple of years to like be on an all defensive team? But again, in a playoff situation, could you throw him on Jamal Murray? I mean, would you rather have Jaden McDaniels' defense than Devin Booker's defense? Again, probably, but to win the defensive minutes and to combine that with the shooting and get those minutes over Holiday, I thought that spoke to the two-way player that Devin Booker was. And there was also that tweet that was going around that Kuzma had tweeted out after, was that the 2020 Olympics? Or maybe that was one of the FIBA runs that the Team USA had where he was like, hey, somebody needs to be on this team and do the little thing, stand in the corner, shoot the threes, hustle and play defense. And I don't know if Kuzma was trying to make his audition for the team, which maybe he should have done a better job of doing that in the season. But Booker replied to that tweet, and that's the reply that was going around, was him saying, okay, I guess I'll do it. And that's exactly what he did for this team. So, Holiday, especially winning the finals this year. I mean, obviously Kerr was not concerned about that with how he treated the Tatum minutes, but Holiday was actually shooting the ball well too. So you get the pedigree and the performance and the fact that Holiday is a couple years older than Booker. I think Holiday's in his 30s versus, Booker not quite there yet. But yeah, Holiday 34. So a 38-year-old Drew Holiday, then 2028 Paris Olympics. Windhorst was talking about Team USA bringing back KD. No mention of them bringing back Drew Holiday. So I don't know what the odds of that are in a couple of years, but that kind of, because we saw that with the other veterans. And again, Steph and LeBron and KD were still the go-to guys, but it was okay. They need to be that because their last chance to definitely get that gold medal. So all of those things playing in Holiday's favor, and Booker still managing to be the guy that wins the minutes at that 2 guard spot. Just really impressed. Are we gonna bet the Devin Booker MVP bet 2 years in a row? I don't think, unfortunately, MVP might be a little a little rich for Devin Booker now that our vision's been cleared because of the overcorrection last season. But can you bet guys to be all NBA? If not, DRF. If you're gonna throw any more props back up on that site, if you want to throw any bets, let's throw some future all NBA bets out there. Get some Devin Booker props going. But Embiid as well too, being out there in the final minutes. I was looking at a list of guys that I was trying to go through and look at guys that had won the finals MVP after 30, their first one, because, and the guys that win the finals MVP 30 plus years old, like LeBron and a couple others, but MJ, but the guys to win the actual first one at 30 years old or after, you've got Rick Barry, Hakeem, Paul Pierce, and Dirk. And then you've also got Havlicek, but again, Havlicek was part of like that Celtics dynasty, had, maybe double-digit rings under his belt at that point. Maybe not necessarily a finals MVP, but well experienced. Kobe won his first finals MVP after 30, but 3 finals wins with Shaq early in his career. Iguodala won his first finals MVP at 30, which also caused Steph to win his first finals MVP at 30. So I feel like we just have to put a little bit of a note on that one. That's like, Steph in that 2014 finals was pretty good as well too. If he had gotten that MVP before 30, that would have made a lot of sense. And then Iggy, amazing finals performance, legendary, gets a ring, immortalized his status in the NBA, even if he doesn't get the finals MVP, but would also take him off this list as well too. So we just had to put like a little note on those guys. But like the ones that were really interesting were Rick Barry, Hakeem, Pierce, and Dirk. And Hakeem and Dirk as well too, to do it as big men. But Embiid will be 30 entering this year. But as I was going through the list as well too, I realized that this is the first kind of time in Embiid's career where it's realistic that he could win the finals, but not necessarily be the finals MVP because of how good Maxey has grown into and the player that he's become. He's an all NBA level guy. So there's that, half a season that they have with Jimmy Butler in that playoff run. And that's probably the closest that they've been to winning the finals with Embiid on the Sixers team. Ben Simmons there as well too. Maybe if Harden just, completely reverses all the playoff narratives about him and just goes crazy for a playoff run and back in those Sixers days, then maybe there's a small percentage case that he gets it. But I think, Maxey's obviously the most realistic guy in that role as an Embiid teammate in the finals, could be the finals MVP. And, Embiid could play super well too, but that's just, I kind of think the respect that I have for Maxey at this point. So I think Embiid being on a team where he could figure out how to win, but again, he didn't have to necessarily figure out how to win as a main guy, which I think if Maxey is even a couple notches below where I think he could be, because I don't know if Maxey could be the best player on a title team, but again, I think he could be the finals MVP on a finals team, which I think is a different group of guys. Like even Kyrie Irving, which I think I was saying going into the finals last year, something about, what are the odds that Doncic could win the Mavs could win the finals and Doncic could not be the finals MVP, like with how good Kyrie Irving was playing in some of those playoff games as well too. I don't remember exactly what I was trying to point. I was trying to make there back in that playoffs series, but I remember it was something about that. But even Kyrie, maybe a notch or two just below the level. That's a tough one of what Maxey could end up get to, because peak Kyrie as well offensively. I mean, the skill set for Kyrie, I'm not saying the Maxey skill set, but maybe the impact is just like a half a tick higher. Again, because how many All NBAs has Kyrie been on? Has he been on? Definitely One, is he a multi-time All-NBA guy? 3 All-NBAs, and they would be a third team, a second team, and a third team. So he was second team in that 18-19 season in Boston, that second Boston season, 67 games played, 23 points a game. So you've got Boston that year, 49-33, so not quite a 50-win team, but Kyrie's still on second team All-NBA. Let's see the guards on third team All-NBA this year. Was this like a Kemba? What year was the Kemba Walker third team All-NBA? I feel like that kind of blanks out all the other All-NBA seasons. Oh, our Wi-Fi cut out for a second. Are we back in? I thought we were going to glitch out, but I think we're back. The guards on third team All-NBA that year it was Kemba Walker, but also Russell Westbrook, OKC, sneaking on third team All-NBA. But Kemba Walker was on third team All-NBA that year. And Bradley Beal was the next guard vote getter that didn't make it. Klay Thompson also got snubbed. And looking back, maybe Klay Thompson should have been on a third team All-NBA at some point in that run. But this would have also been, Durant, Curry, been there a couple years, getting all the love. Do we want to put 3, probably 4 guys on All-NBA? Because where's Draymond? Draymond's probably an All-NBA guy here too. Oh, I think Draymond might have got left off the list this year. Because Durant and Curry were both on. But yeah, no Draymond on All-NBA. So only 2 guys. What were the NBA voters doing? Get Sam a vote. Sam would actually get this stuff right. But I think Maxey could get to that level, like we were saying. So I think, and again, Embiid not learning how to necessarily have to carry a team, but having the experience of elevating in big moments and just seeing him actually do it too was, really, for one, just fun to watch, but also like, okay, yeah, we know it's in there, Embiid. Now let's actually, get healthy. And that's the thing about the fact that they were actually able to play a title game in August versus playing a title game in June or earlier in the spring. And Embiid a couple months off too. The playoff exit a little earlier than you'd like. But I think if I had to rank who experience was most valuable for Team USA, shout out to Sam's guy, Bill Simmons always does that bit. But I think Embiid might be number 1. And Booker has a strong case as well, too. But especially because of Maxey, because I think the Sixers, maybe the Eastern Conference, too, just an easier path to being in the finals. And then once you're in the finals, winning the finals at that point. I think Embiid's experience might be number 1. And also the fact that he just had big moments against Jokic, who's his other big arch nemesis. That's another specific one where they would have to meet up in the finals if they were ever going to meet in the playoffs. But, if you're going to have to meet Jokic in the finals, you're going to want to be mentally prepared for that challenge. But if you have confidence against Jokic, I'm sure that's going to translate to some confidence against Giannis and the other bigs. Porzingis is a different challenge because of the shooting, which if the Jokic shooting stays the way it has, it won't be much of a problem, which of course we know Jokic is a great player. He'll even it out. I guess Porzingis probably not quicker than Jokic, and Jokic probably has a little bit of a better handle. So yeah, I guess at the end of the day, Jokic is a tougher guard than Kristaps Porzingis, but still Porzingis is definitely a challenging offensive guy to match up against, but definitely valuable experience for Embiid. And then for Tatum and Halliburton, who didn't get to necessarily play much, for Tatum, it's unfortunate to have this kind of run in the year that you won the finals. And shout out to, I forget this guy's name, but I saw him he was on the Cam and Mace show, not their show, but check out the Stat Wilson has her own show on the channel. And he was one of the original guests on that show. And he had a clip go viral with that take. He beat us to it. It is what it is. But we beat him to the Kamala Harris Wemby joke. So you win one, you lose one. It's how it goes. But he had a clip basically saying how, Tatum has basically had probably the worst post finals run of a guy that's won the finals for like a big legacy guy like that, which I probably totally agree with. And I, don't, at least for guys that I've seen as well, too, I would have to agree with that, because I don't know if I know all the post final storylines from all the other guys in NBA history, but it'd be hard to think of a year where, Magic or MJ or Bird or Kareem or even like Wilt, the year that he won the finals, had this kind of narrative. Because Wilt, I don't even think had a finals where he played, where he won and played poorly the way, or at least had the poor shooting numbers the way that Tatum did early on in the finals. Of course, he turned it around in the last couple of games and was a big reason why they were able to close it out. But the playoff shooting struggles, and then just to continue that in the Olympics. But I thought it was funny that they put him and Halliburton at the center of the team when they were receiving the gold medal, tried to stick him out there in front. And they were handing off the Olympic ceremonies to 2028. So I guess they were doing that with the team a little bit when they were receiving the gold medal. But for Halliburton, they were floating the injury thing out there as well, too, right afterwards. It's kind of like, hey, this is a big reason he didn't play. But I don't think anybody's going to think less of Tyrese Halliburton because of that. I think for him, being on the team is a huge win. And, as you look forward to 2028 as well, too, there's definitely, you're doing the graphics, doing the projections of who's going to be out there. And Halliburton's a guy that's, slotted to maintain his spot on the team. I wouldn't be shocked if that happened, but he's also a good example of a guy where you can be one of the better players in the league, but have that season where you break out a little bit and maybe just go, the season where it's like kind of your moment season. And to be on the Olympic team, maybe you have to time it right sometimes to be one of the guys where you have your moment season on the year where the Olympics comes around. And for Halliburton, maybe this was not his moment season. Like there's going to be playoff moments for Halliburton. I'm sure, he's going to have more storied legacy things that happen. But you get what I'm saying from like a numbers standpoint and just the shooting efficiency and kind of putting all that stuff together. I don't think that Halliburton is going to have any kind of a fall off the next couple of years. That's not what I'm saying. But the league is going to be, again, like we've been saying, just really, really stacked. And not even from an international standpoint as well, too. The American standpoint, I think we might be in for like a real influx of American talent. It's not like we need an influx of basketball talent. I mean, we'll take more basketball talent, especially with the league possibly looking to expand overseas as well, too. So we're going to really need to spread the talent out. But but I think there's some really intriguing American prospects on the rise with some really, really high ceilings. So that potential spot on the Olympic team, they're going to be hard to get. It's going to be a tough group to try to figure out. And I think we might actually try to do it. It's going to be nearly impossible to predict the exact team, but I think we've got a good way to kind of try to figure it out. And I mean, if you just look at the turnover, even from the 2020 Olympic team, I mean, there's been some pretty crazy, probably half the roster is different. And I get that, you just get, some better players want to sign up for the team. And it's like, okay, you got to give up your spot. But looking back at it, I mean, you've got Chris Middleton, Zach LaVine, Keldon Johnson sneaking on there, Jeremy Grant, JaVale McGee, Draymond Green, Dame Lillard. So Dame Lillard, Draymond, Chris Middleton, and Zach LaVine. I mean, Middleton and Zach LaVine, maybe not your first choices, but LaVine 5 years ago was 26, 27 points a game. Middleton was, third guy on a title team, hovering around all NBA level. I'm pretty sure he's probably gotten some votes in his day. Let's see if he's ever been on a all NBA team. I don't think Chris Middleton ever has. 3-time All-Star. I don't know if Basketball Reference doesn't show you the votes right off the top, but I'm sure somebody's thrown down a Chris Middleton All NBA vote. So he's been in the range. Dame Lillard 4 years ago. I mean, Dame Lillard, he's on the 75th anniversary team. People forget, but he snuck on. The criteria to make the anniversary team is you only need to play in 4 conference championship games in your career. But he could still definitely have a chance to up that with Giannis, make no mistake. But you get him 4 years ago, and then Bam, Booker, Tatum, Drew, and Durant all return. Obviously, you get Pop coaching the team. You got to throw Keldon Johnson on there. Why didn't he make the team this year? The 4-year rise? Keldon Johnson, come on. it's just because of LeBron, Keldon. I know it's the only reason. That otherwise, I think he was the next guy on the list. But I mean, just by virtue of that, and a couple of guys aging out, there's going to be some pretty big turnover in the team. Let's see, like the 08 to 012 turnover, because that 08 team was the original. You got the Redeem team with Kobe, Wade, LeBron, Bosh, all those guys on that quest to redeem themselves from the bronze medal in 2004. You got Boozer, Kidd, Darren Williams, Michael Redd, Dwight Howard, Tayshaun Prince, in addition to the guys we mentioned, Carmelo Anthony, Chris Paul, Chris Bosh, Kobe, Dwayne Wade, LeBron as sort of the main core of guys. And then you go over to 2012, and I'm assuming Michael Redd's probably off the team. Yeah, Anthony Davis is on the team at that point. James Harden in the Michael Redd spot. Oh, Darren Williams, a repeat offender for the 2012 team. Tyson Chandler makes his way on. This would be right after a couple years after the finals. You got Iggy, Andre Iguodala, Kevin Love is on the 2012 Olympic team. So, there's probably, 6 or 7 new guys, but maybe even more than that, just because of the fact that, that's probably the first place to start is, so again, we're not predicting like what the exact team will be, but I've broken it down. We've got a watch list. We're doing a watch list of guys to keep an eye on for the 2028 team. And I've got them in the position groups and then into the tiers. We've got a Monica Geller level organization on the future of Team USA, but we'll go through it quickly. Make no mistake. It's only a couple guys, but the first sort of not even a tier, but we're already branching off and doing side quests. But the first place to start would be, again, I think the guys that could potentially just age out. We don't want to be ageist on the Rem and Sam pod, but it happens. Guys, they play out their basketball careers. And at least, we're not saying that these guys are going to be out of the league in 4 years, but are they going to be on the front lines of getting the phone call for Team USA? Again, Kevin Durant, Windhorse mentioned him as Team USA would extend like a provisional. He said provisional invitation or something like that to the 2028 roster. But again, I don't know if that's just to the camp as well, too, where they invite the 40 guys, or if that's just they're doing it in 2024, knowing, hey, 4 years from now, who knows? Is Kevin Durant even still going to be in the league? I'm not saying that he's not going to be. It's just, I'm sure a lot could change where they could just be like, hey, maybe that provisional, we called it provisional for a reason. Maybe it's not, invitation's not in the mail anymore. But KD would have, I'd have big questions about him returning. And even with Team USA bringing it back, I'd still generously say like there's a 70-30 chance. Maybe just KD being the greatest Team USA guy of all time and going for, would that be what, like 5? It'd be 5 gold medals. It wouldn't be 6 gold medals for KD because that'd be 20 years of basketball. So maybe it'd be number 6. But, him being the last guy on that roster spot where maybe you'd have the young guy, you just take Durant instead. And maybe Durant at 38 is, definitely still able to give you something. But we'll keep that spot open on the roster just for the sake of discussion. Steph as well, too. I mean, he was openly saying this is probably going to be his last chance to compete. Drew, we mentioned as well, is going to be 38. Embiid was saying this might be his last Olympics, but maybe for Team USA. I don't know if the, NBA Africa, Cameroon's got like a team in the works. Siakam and him are going to be teaming up for something. Or if he's just going to go join Team France in 2028, is Embiid going to go gold medal hunting in the Olympics? He joined Team USA this year, and then he's just going to hop on Team France, which is, make no mistake, potentially going to be really stacked in 2028. I don't know if it's still going to be Team USA level stacked, but it's probably going to be the best, maybe the best just like NBA roster that they've ever played in an Olympic tournament if they play France over the course of the 2028 Olympics. And of course, if all the stocks on this, all these guys hit. But just in terms of like a copy and paste NBA team, maybe there's like some Spain team. You get the Gasol brothers, these Serbia teams, Sabonis back in the day, those teams, maybe those were more like actual better teams, but just in terms of guys that are on NBA teams. I mean, France is just basically going to be an NBA roster unless they bring Yabusele back, do the Kevin Durant thing for his work this year, winning the silver medal. But even Yabusele might get an NBA job for, again, winning the silver medal. But Embiid might be off the team in 2028. Davis, let's see. He's what, 30, 31 right now? Let's double check the Anthony Davis age. He will be, he's 31 right now, 32 in March. So, he'll be 34, 35 when the Olympics roll around in 2028. I wouldn't just like lock in Anthony Davis to be a return. And Derek White as well, too, is 30 right now, if I'm not mistaken. I was going through the ages. I was a little shocked when I saw that. Maybe I shouldn't have been because of the haircut. But yeah, Derek White just turned 30 in July, but he'll be 34. So just in terms of our versatile role player, do it all, I mean, Devin Booker, but our backup to Devin Booker, maybe Derek White is not just a repeat guy on that team as well. And then the other guys that would be in consideration, the guys that are still the elite guys, but 4 years from now, we'll see. You got the Paul George Kawhi combo. And, these guys weren't necessarily in the mix for Team USA. I guess Kawhi was on the team, but you know what I'm saying. Dame Lillard as well, Kyrie, and do we still say Bradley Beal's an all-NBA guy? I know he's got some Team USA experience in the past. I don't know if he gets that qualification, but those would be like the guys that would be in their mid to late 30s when 2028 rolls around. So, and the last half of the list wasn't even on Team USA at this point, but going through the position groups for the guys to keep an eye on, we'll start with the guards. And I've got 5 tiers for the guards. We'll start with the 5th tier. We'll start at the bottom. Pause. This is okay. We'll just go through the tier. We've got Kobe White, who would be about 28. So we got a peak of the powers, Kobe White, potentially in 2028. At the shooting this year really took a step up. If you need a guard that's not going to necessarily take away a ton from the team, if he levels up over the next 4 years, he's just a guy to keep an eye on. These are, again, the tiers are going up as levels of guys to keep an eye on. So this is for guards, the 5th tier of if this guy really ascends over the next 4 years, at least we had him on the list when we were keeping an eye out. We could say we had the stock on it. This just shows you that if we were running the Team USA basketball Grant Hill, we'd be doing the work. We'd be putting in the hours. But DeJounte Murray also in tier 5. Jaden Ivey, if we get like a real Jaden Ivey level up, I wouldn't count it out in the next 4 years. I guess that's the point of the list. That's like, hey, these guys, the level up, it's not this 5th tier. Let's not count it out. Anthony Simons, Jaden Ivey would be 25. Anthony Simons is 25, which what's more shocking? Anthony Simons is already 25 or Derek White's 30. I guess Anthony Simons 25 he's been a young guy for a while. So also looking at the Basketball Reference, it's like 6 seasons already for Simons. We're going to need to actually put something together here for this. I don't know if it's going to be on the Blazers, but I want to see Simons in actually some real basketball minutes. Have we ever seen Simons play in like April? I don't know how many games he's logged, but Tyler Hero, I feel like we have to put respect on Tyler Hero's name. If, he'll be 28 in 2028, he'll be, in the quote unquote prime, the basketball prime years. Same with Desmond Bane. He'll be 29-ish. It's hard to figure out when all the birthdays land for these guys, but just a rough calculation, Bane will be in his late 20s in 2028. That's the roughest calculation we could do. I think it's not like we're saying, we wouldn't count out the Bane level up over the next 4 years. And then I put Emmanuel Quickly in tier 5. Not like I was going to put him in tier 4 or tier 3, but I snuck him on the list. I just feel like we had to mention him just in case, like we're saying, anything happens. Tier 4, we've got Jalen Green, who with the Rockets, I don't know if there's going to be some Sengun movement. Is he going to be on the market? But you got the wings with him. Now, Thompson being in the mix now, and we stepping on the tiers. Who knows what that does for, Jalen Green's usage in Houston. But I mean, the improvement that it showed, it's like, okay, yeah, he's back in the mix of guys that, all-star team is now. It's like, yeah, that's probably something that could very easily happen for Jalen Green. Is all NBA in the mix for Jalen Green? Like, the ceiling is now the roof for, again, for Jalen Green after the run that he had with the Rockets this year. I put Austin Reeves in tier 3. Now, the defense with Reeves, you're never going to have like a two-way case for him, but a 29-year-old Austin Reeves, just crafty at that point. The shot, it's just locked in, super consistent. I don't know if we'd be super shocked if he made a Team USA run in 2028. I'm not giving up on Scoot Henderson. I don't know if he's a tier 5 guy or I guess, yeah, we're still in tier 4. Sorry, I think I said this was tier 3 earlier, but I don't know if he's a tier 5 guy, but I still got him in tier 4. He'll be 23 in 2028. So maybe it's too early for Scoot to be on Team USA. Maybe he's a 2032 guy. But, the thing with LeBron this year that was really important was, having LeBron always important, but just the point guards in the league. And, Halliburton was on that team for this reason as well. Brunson was probably one of the first snubs off the list for this reason. Also, just the ability to give him the ball and run the team. Like, even Steph is not going to run the team in that sort of way. Like, you saw the way that they were able to, when he was kind of able to figure out his best role, where it wasn't, he's just like a spot up shooter. He's still able to get the ball and create a little bit, especially in that France game. They were really letting him cook, but, not fully playmaking. Durant's not going to be running the offense. Booker could definitely pseudo do that role. Like, if Booker's out there with Steph and Durant and Embiid and Tatum or Edwards or Drew or something, like, maybe that lineup's able to work and still win the gold medal for sure. But just the LeBron point guard role is going to be the interesting one that I think is going to be that's going to be curious to see where they replace him at with that position. But another young guard from the same draft class as Scoot that I would keep an eye on for, just to see where the ceiling is at on Keontae George, because I think, year one, some might say Keontae George farther along than Scoot Henderson, but I don't know if the ceilings are like, Scoot, you're not saying that, oh yeah, he's going to be like a way worse player than Keontae George. But, if we're putting Reeves on for the versatility, we got to keep an eye on Jalen Suggs, because the man was over 40% from 3 this year, and he's one of the best guard defenders in the league. So like we're saying, Holiday as well, too, is going to be off the team potentially in 2028 in his late 30s. So Suggs in the Holiday spot, I think, could be a very fitting sort of passing. And I don't know where the Team USA passing the torch would have taken place, but positionally, that feels like a good replacement, at least the type of player that Suggs is. And then I put LaMelo Ball in tier 4. I could have put him in tier 3, could have put him in tier 5. Maybe I could have left him off the list, but Sam, I still feel like, has a lot of LaMelo Ball stock. And again, he can be a real run the team type guy, which is a rare skill set. And I think if he matures a little bit with the shot making stuff and locks in on defense, like, yeah, there is a world where LaMelo Ball is really like, oh man, I don't know if he's leading a title team, but I would say LaMelo Ball, finals MVP category, I'd put him in it. The second, I'm confused. I'm reading my list backwards. We're on the 3rd tier for the guards. And again, I still got tons of Darius Garland stock. The point guard skills are there. And there could be a potential change of scenery thing that happens with him, where maybe it's not even like this coming season. Again, we're talking about what's going to happen over the next 4 years leading into the 2028 season. If he gets traded in 2026, even like 2027, and has a really amazing season and a half leading into that 2028 Team USA camp, I mean, his name is fully going to be back on the play. He's a 4th overall pick. I mean, he has the pedigree. Darius Garland has Team USA experience. He definitely has to have dabbled in that at some point, but he's just like a couple of good breaks away from being back in the mix. It's like, oh yeah, we forgot how good Darius Garland was as a basketball player. I've got De'Aaron Fox in tier 3, 31-year-old De'Aaron Fox. Again, kind of on the outside looking in already, but as some of the other guards age out, he really did, I think, from a basketball IQ standpoint, and the clutchness was still there this year. I thought he took a step up in a couple of areas where if he grows and just continues to mature as a player, a veteran De'Aaron Fox could be an interesting addition to Team USA. But moving into tier 2, I've got the two guards from this year's team. I guess not the two guards, but two of the guards from this year's team in tier 2. I've got Booker and Halliburton here, and Booker at 32 and Halliburton at 28. It's not even a fall off, like what I'm saying, like a fall off. I think there's going to be any kind of dip in their game over the next 4 years. I just think the guys that I have in tier 1 could potentially really take their games up over the next 4 years. And there's a couple other guys too that's like maybe just, again, in that Derek White role. Once you get the 2 or 3 lead guys, what do you need to sort of balance out the rest of the roster? But I mean, if they're tier 1 guys, I totally get it. But I didn't think I could put everybody in tier 1. So we've also got Cade Cunningham in tier 2, was running the Team USA select team with great success at various points. He'll be 26, potentially off the Pistons as well in 2028, maybe hopefully in San Antonio. Cade Cunningham and Wemby teamed up, and the Cade Cunningham stock is just way back up through the roof. I think, again, as a point guard, he's a guy that can really control the pace of a game. And I think his shooting as well, too. Garland is an 40% shooter when he's right. And who else we were talking about? LaMelo is a 40% shooter, but I think Cade's shot making could potentially just already be a little more mature than LaMelo, and he's got some, post up stuff that maybe LaMelo doesn't quite, some going to the rim moves that LaMelo doesn't quite have, but just a little more versatility and strength to Cade Cunningham's game along with the point guard skills. But Amen Thompson, I've got slotted in tier 2. I think the athleticism, the defensive upside that he has, the shooting could potentially be a question, but he's also a guy that could be a very dynamic playmaker. And I'm 90% there. Could he, the best version of Amen Thompson be the guy that runs the Team USA offense? Again, we're talking about the timeline where this is, the good, all the things go right for Amen Thompson. Like, this is the best version of him. Is he the lead point guard on Team USA? He might need another ball handler out there, but he really showed some great point guard skills. I think his basketball IQ is really high. And I'm all in on the Amen Thompson stock. It's weird when you get the guys where, the overtime elite thing was such a weird thing for me. It's like, why would you do this move? All these other guys, it's like these very obvious strength of competition that how to gauge it up against. And that all of the traits that, Amen Thompson has shown in the league definitely popped an overtime elite, but just watching him in that league is just bizarre. And it's a very frustrating from a draft standpoint. And I probably docked him a little bit more than I should have. But once you like connect and come around and have the total moment with the guy, you can really be sold on their basketball stock and really get invested into them as a player. And I'm saying, I'm all in on Amen Thompson. There's a couple other guys too where you kind of have that rocky. I'm just not totally sold. I think Podziemski's another one. Podziemski's a guy I forgot to mention in tier 3. I also forgot to mention Donovan Mitchell. We were halfway 2-3 when we pivoted in tier 2. My bad. But Podziemski's another guy where I was just like, is his defense, is he going to hold up in the league? But now that he's in the league and showcasing and just having success, it's like, oh, well, now I'm totally all in on Brandon Podziemski. He's one of my main guys. They say it's like the love-hate thing is a similar passion. And but this is crazy talk for basketball fandom. Pause. But there is, again, it's that weird thing where you go so far the one way, maybe it just swings it back so far. The momentum, I don't know. The science, we'll have to figure it out. But like we said, Podziemski was also in tier 3 just because of the versatility. You can fit him into any lineup. He can play on, he can play off the ball, shoot, do a lot of things, can just fit on any team. So he's got to be in the mix. And I think he showcased some I don't know if he's an all NBA level guy. I don't know if Podziemski's going to make an all-star team even, but I think he's in that role of could definitely make Team USA better by his presence. And Mitchell, he's still only going to be 32 in 2028. So I don't know if Mitchell is still going to be in the All NBA conversation at 32. I wouldn't count it out, but he still has to be mentioned for keeping an eye. He's going to be a relevant basketball player at 32. He's got to be in the mix for Team USA. But like we're saying, Amen Thompson and some of the high school guys, I just haven't watched enough to really know a lot about their games. But a guy like Dylan Harper, all the scouting reports and everything that you read about him and people say about him, it's like, oh yeah, he's potentially going to be another one of the really high level guards in this upcoming draft class. A couple other wings, obviously, to look forward to. I think he was the third overall recruit on 24/7 Sports for this class this year, 2024. But he's another guy that just goes on our list because of the the prospect hype that's built around him. And we'll definitely do the YouTube deep dive to familiarize ourselves more. We don't want to do the Shaq with Dylan Harper and say we're not familiar with his game. But the tier 1 guys that I'm keeping an eye on for Team USA are, and we mentioned this guy earlier. And so I guess the number 1 guard that I kind of saw floated around out there for 2028 was Ja, which I totally agree with. And he's in my tier 1. I was, seeing some people as well too say that maybe he should just be on the team this year, which, I don't know who you're going to take. Derek White, I guess, just put Ja Morant on the team, even though Derek, he's not going to necessarily do what Derek White provides for his role on the basketball court. And Derek White definitely very successful this year in the Olympics doing that as well. But this team wouldn't have been worse off having Ja Morant. But I think, tier 1, I think he should definitely be top of the list for lead guard on the 2028 Team USA roster. But I would have Maxey as my number 1 guy to keep an eye on. And again, I think some of these other guards, I don't know if there's any guards here in this list, honestly, where you would really bank your hopes on, oh yeah, I'm building my team around this guy to win the title. Maybe we have to bring that up with Sam on Friday. That's kind of interesting. Are there any guards that you would do that? The Knicks are doing that with Brunson right now, and he's in our tier 1 as well too. 32-year-old Brunson. I think his maturity at that age, even if he's, not the same level of Brunson that he is now, I'd say some of the shiftiness or whatever. I don't know. I think his game potentially is going to age really well, especially with some of the post-up stuff that he does. And just, again, his playmaking, he's such a smart player. And a guy that just has always been adapted to situations, and he'll figure out a way to last in the league for, he'll be 38, 39. And we'll be like, man, Jalen Brunson, he's still kicking it. So 32, I would totally expect him to still be in the mix for Team USA. But a couple of other role player guards I was thinking to keep an eye on that, again, they're not going to be probably starting guards in the team in the future, hopefully. But if they're valuable 6 men, they wouldn't be shocked. But guys that are going to be versatile, provide the defense, provide the shooting. Cason Wallace for OKC and Reed Shepherd just got drafted this year to the Houston Rockets would be two of the, who's going to be the Derek White in the future? Those would be two of the guys, my tier 1, Derek White type guys. So you got Maxey and Ja and Jalen Brunson as well too, as the tier 1 lead guard guys. And then for me, if you're going to bring role players, Cason Wallace, Reed Shepherd. I mean, if there was a situation where you brought Maxey, Ja, Brunson, and Cade, or Maxey, Ja, Brunson, just bring Booker at that point. You're probably going to bring a 32-year-old Booker over a younger Cason Wallace and Reed Shepherd. But I'm just saying, if Reed Shepherd really has a crazy run here over the next 4 years, I mean, the shooting that he showed if Reed Shepherd's just shooting 50% from 3 in the NBA right away, then it's like, okay, we got to take him on the team. And he's got the defense. It's Kyle Korver mixed with the defense. I mean, I don't know how you leave this guy off the roster just because the weapon that he is, but maybe Halliburton and Booker get that Team USA experience nod. But maybe should we I feel like this would be a situation where Sam would be like, nah, you're crazy. You got to flip Halliburton and Booker for Wallace and Shepherd. But you get what I was saying there was a little bit of a different types of tiers going on there. But I would definitely, we'll try to figure out some sort of a roster. Definitely Maxey and Ja and Brunson as well too. And you know what? We'll bring Halliburton in Booker back. But let's go through the wings as well, too. The wings and the bigs, there's less of like the, I don't want to say elite options because it is like really, really stacked. But like we said, I mean, we just read all the guards' names. That's probably as many players as I have in wings and bigs combined. But like we were saying, I don't know if we would necessarily pick them to win the title. And a lot more in the lower end tier as well, too, where you go to the bigs, you don't necessarily have the Kobe White level, big man in the league. There's a little bit more of a drop off. But for the wings, tier 5, we've got Jabari Smith, Jonathan Kuminga, GG Jackson, and Cam Whitmore. I just love what I saw from GG Jackson this last year. And Cam Whitmore probably should have been a top 10 pick. And if we did a redraft right now, I guess I don't have all the names. Pajemski raised his stock. Hawkins raised his stock from that class. Was Hawkins in that class and raised his stock as well too? Lively, Case and Walls. So, I don't know. Maybe he's definitely a lottery pick in the early redraft for that class, but Flash, maybe a little aggressive putting him on here this early. But GG Jackson is just like a low-key sleeper pick. Let's see what this guy develops into. We definitely got to keep an eye on that. Kuminga, it's a longer. I would probably have better bets on GG Jackson than Jonathan Kuminga, but we'll still keep an eye on Kuminga. And then Jabari Smith could play a little small ball 5 as well too, which as we go through the bigs, maybe that just makes a guy like Jabari Smith a little bit more valuable. Maybe it makes a guy like Jalen Johnson more valuable. I put Jalen Johnson in tier 4. I've also got Mikal Bridges, Jaden McDaniels, and Devin Vassell. The case for Vassell would be one, just he develops into an amazing player. Of course, we have a lot of Vassell stock, but also Wemby, and just over the next 4 years, as the team continues to grow and get better, them playing in more bigger games and him being a sidekick to Wemby versus Vassell being a main guy, seeing him in that secondary role, which I think his secondary scoring skills could be really, high level. It's high level. I don't know if he's an all-star doing it, but you get what I'm saying. Could he be in that Chris Middleton vein? I guess Chris Middleton, 3-time all-star, but a guy who could be a 20-point a game scorer in a playoff game and hit big shots for in the fourth quarter. I think Vassell could definitely do that. McDaniels, his defense could be valuable. Bring that. Jalen Johnson's versatility, and same with Mikal Bridges, who again would be the veteran, but with the younger options, you got Johnson and McDaniels hovering in there. And then I guess we've got 6 tiers for the wings, but we've got, or no, this is just tier 3 is just a tier. It's just called the New Orleans Pelicans. It's Zion, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Jordan Hawkins, and Brandon Ingrams. We just have to keep an eye on all these guys. Maybe one of these guys hits for Team USA. Zion, Trey Murphy, we probably could have moved him up, but Trey Murphy in tier 3 just shows you, keep an eye out. The wings that are headed up on the list it's a pretty stacked list here. Herb Jones as well, too. If we're making the Jaden McDaniels case, just do we want to bring like an elite wing defender? And if his shooting gets really more consistent over the next 4 years, he could definitely really have a strong case. Zion, I hope we bring Zion over to the Olympics. I think that would be really insane. And just a couple of Zion dunks in a gold medal game, I think he would have a couple of moments. But tier 2 is Jaylen Brown. Could have been a tier 1 guy. Maybe Sneaky could have been a tier 3 guy, but also that means he's a tier 4 guy, because if he's a tier 3 guy, that means he's traded to the Pelicans, because that's the only players that were in tier 3. But, 32-year-old Jaylen Brown, year 12, I don't know if he's going to. And again, the fall off from where you are in the league to, hey, can we still have you on Team USA and go out there and win a gold medal? With France, like we were saying, on the horizon, maybe that kind of generosity toward that kind of veteran player might not be. And Brown, not being on the team wouldn't be the example of the veteran player, but for a guy like Booker, maybe that kind of generosity, if the international competition is more fierce, then maybe it is not extended as much. But I would still think that Jaylen Brown in his early 30s would be a high level wing in the NBA. But Brandon Miller and Jalen Williams, I mean, they're going to be right in the mix for this spot. And, Jalen Williams at 27 versus Jaylen Brown at 32. It's going to be a close call. Brandon Miller at 25, 4 more years. I guess he'll be 6 years into his career at that point. So, maybe Brandon Miller in 30, 32. Do we just lock it in at that point? But I think he's definitely strong in the mix for what he showed as a number 2 overall pick. But I don't think he's going to get the respect for being the number 2 overall pick in the Wembanyama draft, where, Wembanyama is just this overwhelming number 1 overall prospect. And, in other years, I think Brandon Miller, it's like the hype that he would get, maybe he's just not like a super kind of hyped guy in general, but I think his production as a rookie would have been a little more respected throughout the league if Wembanyama hadn't been such a shadow over the draft class. And even Scoot as well, too, just because of that game that they had played and that high level of them actually having the head-to-head matchup against each other. And Miller didn't really have that chance to face Wemby before going into the NBA. But I would expect both of those guys to be right on pace. And then, I'll just spoiler alert, Cooper Flagg is in tier 1, but I put Ace Bailey in tier 2. He's the number 2 recruit this year. He's like he's the Brandon Miller to Cooper Flagg's Wemby. He's the guy that's being overshadowed. But maybe his gap in talent is closer to Flagg's than Wembanyama's. Maybe I'm just being biased as a Spurs fan, but Bailey's scoring ability. Now, Flagg, the versatility, again, that's another guy where there's guys that get such a level of hype, and it's not even for basketball. It's like literally everything, Tom Holland, Harry Styles. There's guys that just get such universal love where sometimes you got to kind of look and be like, what's really going on? There's got to be something else going on here that I don't know, but I don't know if I can buy in if everybody's buying in. And Cooper Flagg was one of the guys where everybody was buying in, and watching the Team USA select team, count me in with everybody, because to be at that level, and that's really what separated him for me over Ace Bailey, because I have watched a little bit of Ace Bailey's high school stuff and reading some of those stuff as well, too, just about how his game continues to develop. If Cooper Flagg didn't have the experience of being one of the best basketball players on the court against the other best basketball players in the world against Team USA, then I think maybe him and Ace Bailey would have been in the same tier. And maybe if Ace Bailey had that experience, he's obviously got to go up into tier 1 of the watch list, but you got to keep a close eye on him. There's just a bunch of young wings on the horizon right now for Team USA, and guys that have played with Team USA and they're playing in these, under 18, under 19, under 17, whatever tournaments, and getting, that familiarity with the system. Because as we learned with Grant Hill, if Grant Hill's in charge, familiarity with the system is important. But Ace Bailey, 4 years, and that's 4 years. These guys will all be on the rookie contracts. Are all these guys going to take over the league in 2028 and be on the Olympic team? I don't think the Olympic team in 2028 is going to be the 2008 team or like the 04 team where it's just all these young guys and they don't really know what they're doing. Like we're going through the tier. There's going to be all these veteran guys and they're going to have their pick of, mid 30s or whatever. But all these guys, I think, are going to be on the horizon, be in the mix, and it's going to be conversation. There's going to be, Ace Bailey versus, I was going to say Jaylen Brown, but I don't want to keep putting Jaylen Brown in versus players versus conversations. But, an Ace Bailey versus Brandon Miller conversation might appear up at some point. You get, if you want to go cross positional, like, Ace Bailey versus Tyrese Halliburton, who would you rather have? Like, I'm just saying these conversations are going to end up evolving over the next 4 years and maybe influence the Team USA decision, but also Cameron Boozer and then AJ Dimebasta. I think I messed that last name up, but Cam Boozer and AJ are both in the next year's class, so the class of 2025. And Boozer was having a big run for Team USA in one of the tournaments that they just had. He was having some massive performances. So I have a lot of Boozer stock. I bought a lot of Boozer stock after I saw a couple of those posts and a couple of those highlight reels. And I'm really invested in him. And I'm saying, he's in the system. I kind of want to keep seeing him roll for Team USA. So again, maybe are we actually previewing the 30-32 Olympic team? I'm not sure, but those are some young guys that are going to be really fun to watch over the next couple of years. Again, maybe 4 years, rookie contract a little early. But I think Cooper Flagg being on that 2028 team would not be surprising at all. Again, with just even with the way that he dominated the camp, it's like you just got to bring him in for that. He might have just earned his spot regardless of what happens over these next 4 years. I don't know how bad it would have to go, but even at only like 23, he's got to be, for me, like I'm saying, I think he's tier 1 watch list for Team USA next year. Banchero as well, too, for wings right now, has to go in Team USA tier 1. And Banchero versus Jaylen Brown, maybe I could have thrown Jaylen Brown and just made tier 1 a little bit bigger, but that was kind of the would you rather. I wasn't going to debate between Cooper Flagg. I just throw Cooper Flagg on the team. Put Cooper Flagg on the team over anybody. I mean, build the team around Cooper Flagg for all I care. It's going to be him taking over the league when he gets in there. Unfortunately for him, it's just running into the league the same time as Wembanyama. Maybe it's not going to go the way he planned. But Banchero, I think 4 more years running the team, some more playoff reps as well, too. I think he's a tier 1 guy. And then I had Edwards in the wing category. I guess he could have been a guard, but I think on Team USA, he's more of a wing because I think ideally, when you're picking from the whole talent pool, not that Edwards couldn't run the offense and, not that Edwards wouldn't just like take over at some point and maybe even be doing the playmaking if he's really feeling that good. But even Jordan, it's not like they were running the triangle, I don't think, on the Olympic team and doing all that stuff. Because, Chuck Daly was the coach of the dream team. So I don't think Chuck Daly was a triangle guy. So it's not like Jordan was doing the same lead type of offensive stuff. Magic is there. They're running stuff through Barkley in the post and Robinson and doing different things. I was rewatching some of the highlights, just watch because of the dream team comparisons that the 24 team has been getting. And they've got a couple of the full games on there on YouTube as well, too, that we're probably going to throw on just because, like we're saying, there's no sports on and Nari Sports. And we can definitely catch up on movies. And like we're saying, South Park will definitely hold its own for a while, but we're going to need to quench the basketball fiends after a certain amount of time. So I think a little 1992 Team USA rerun might be just the thing to do that. But Edwards on Team USA, I think he's more of a wing. And Tatum, I mean, I think he's got to be tier 1 wing at this point. If we like had to lock in what the team would be in 2024 for 2028 and just submit it now, Tatum, I think is he the first draft pick for that team? Maybe another question for Sam, IT, write it down. We're just planning the Friday show out as we go. But even with the performance that he had, the playoff shooting numbers, the Olympic shooting numbers, it's still Jason Tatum. We get it. And I think we still bet on him at 30 at that point. The fact that Tatum will only be 30 and it's like 4 more years and it feels like, he could have a whole nother legacy shift in 6 different directions in the next 4 years, especially with Tatum and Brown too, the way the conversation, swings around with those guys. But he's still got to be the lead guy. But the bigs is where it gets kind of interesting because, like I'm saying, we don't necessarily have the Kobe White or like for the wings where we were saying with Jabari Smith or Jaden Daniels or Jalen Johnson, where, okay, we get the versatile guy that can kind of plug and play. So I guess, for the lower tier for the bigs, I was thinking like Jarrett Allen or Daniel Gafford, if he continues to like really play up a little bit, but Daniel Gafford got played off the floor a little bit by somebody. Hold that thought. He may be coming up. I also had Karl Anthony Towns in tier 3. I guess, it's a fit thing. We don't have to talk about, whether or not he's shooting and fouling or whatever. But I think, vibes. Is he going to be somebody that Grant Hill in the handshake with is like, yeah, this is a guy for Team USA. But I still think he's on the watch list. Like we're saying, the talent, the offensive skill set would be unique to the roster. And you could build it out in a way where you wouldn't have to rely on him being the big and, anchoring the defense and just doing all that stuff. You could build it where, oh yeah, we're bringing him in you would have to bring him in for his shooting at his size specifically. That would kind of be the role, but it might not necessarily be a bad role either. Now that we're thinking it out, maybe do a little rework. Keep it in mind. We're going to be playing Jabari Smith at center and Karl Anthony Towns at power forward. It's just how it goes sometimes, but maybe we just bring the other Timberwolves center. Let's just bring Naz Reid in 2028. That might be the better option, but yeah, he's also in tier 3. Make no mistake. I didn't just say that, but to make it up. But tier 2, Evan Mobley, the defense, he was Was he now second for defensive player of the year voting this year? Because of course Gobert ended up winning it, but I think our guy was the number 2 voter, number 3 vote getter behind. Oh yeah, duh. We're our one non-biased blind spot in a while for the Spurs because Victor Wembanyama was the number 2 all defensive guy voter. But Evan Mobley sneaking in right there at number 3. And or was that 2 seasons ago? My bad. That was 2 seasons ago for Evan Mobley. So that was the 22-23 season. But also kind of a sneaky guy to keep an eye on the next 4 years. Also, well, Duren for one, Team USA experience, camp experience, but another guy in the Duren class and sort of the Duren mold of hustle, rebound, run, rim runner, pick and roll, gonna get a lot of his buckets around the rim, but maybe a little more defense than Duren. Keep an eye on Mark Williams. Do we have to bring Mark Williams as a center? And when we get to tier 1 as well, too, we might need somebody to match up against a guy like Jokic or maybe just a thicker guy. So Mark Williams would really bring some size that the Team USA could potentially use in the front court. Also, I had Jaren Jackson in tier 2, but he could also be a tier 1 guy. I wouldn't be shocked if he was on Team USA in 2028 either. But tier 1 for bigs, and this is like we're saying, we might need some size, but we got to bring Chet. I mean, Chet is probably going to be one of the best, center, big men-ish type players in the league in the next couple of years. So him and Mark Williams, kind of a fun front court duo if you throw both those guys out there in the next couple of years. But Bam, I think Bam could easily be a repeat guy on this team. I think Davis could be a sneaky repeat guy just because we need, like we're saying, that center in that size position. And maybe if France is just too stacked, maybe Embiid just decides to come back and play on Team USA. But the last guy I had for that center position for Team USA, and really as a rookie, I think showed top 10 pick, but showed, I think, a little bit more impressive than even that and that kind of respect that he should have had for being a top 10 pick. But Derek Lively, Team USA center, because this is kind of the list of guys. This is kind of it. Like, I kind of stretched it out with the wings and the guards. Like, I was kind of making sure to get some good coverage. I mean, we threw Cam Whitmore in there for the wings, Jonathan Kuminga as well too. But I mean, you're looking at, what are you going to throw, like Zach Collins in the mix? There's a good middle group of international centers. You get like Pirtle and Hartenstein and just a couple of other guys, I assume. It's just hard to look up like birthplace too and just assume where you can play for the national team. But yeah, Pirtle was born in Austria. But you can't really stretch it out for the bigs like those other positions. So those are kind of the options that we have to choose from. So it's gonna be a Chet homegrown, Derek Lively, Naz Reid front court next year, or next time. But I think we can make up for it with the guards and with the wings. So I think we would go. Chet is on. Bam is a good shot of being on. I would put those two, like we were saying. Tatum and Edwards is at 4. Cooper Flag gives us 5. Maxey and Morant and Brunson's 6, 7, and 8. So we've got 4 spots left. So let's give Booker and Halliburton those last 2 spots just to play it safe and kind of give some respect for the 2024 Dream Team impressive run. Cam Thomas, is he in the mix for a guard spot as well? Should we mention him? But Paolo probably gets one of those spots. Jaylen Brown. See, those 4 spots, I mean, it could be wide open. And even the Booker Halliburton spots, like I'm saying, if like Cam Boozer just has an insane start to his career, he's maybe just right into the Tyrese Halliburton. Not the same player as Halliburton, but you bring Brunson on and then Boozer supplements in a different way. It's going to be crazy. I don't know. If we want to bring LeBron back in 2028, do we just have to take Bronny on the team? I just don't know who's going to be on the team in 2028. I think it's going to look insane, but make no mistake, we're going to build it around Cooper Flag and Paolo Banchero, a white guy and an Italian guy, Team USA in 2028. It's going to be insane, but I think it's going to be stacked. And I think we're going to have a good shot of getting gold. But some of the other countries are pretty, intriguing. I was going to say stacked, but like I was saying with France earlier, but intriguing. Australia, intriguing. You're going to have Giddy. You're going to have maybe Josh Green, like a peak Josh Green, 28-year-old Josh Green. Serbia is going to have a triple-headed Jokic monster thing going on over there. They're going to have Nikola, triple-headed Nikola, not a Jokic. Nikola Jokic, Nikola Jovic, and Nikola Topic. 3 Nikolas on Serbia and potentially in 2028. I was looking at Mexico. They could potentially have Hawkins, and they could also have this guy who's like a 2026 or 2027 draft prospect. His name's Kareem Lopez, and he's going overseas right now to play in the NBL, but people are really high on his ceiling as well. So I don't know, a Hawkins Lopez combo for Mexico in 2028. Maybe they got the building blocks as something, but just some names to throw out there for Team France to keep in mind for the next couple of years to watch. Obviously, Wemby. Obviously, Embiid, like we were saying, maybe he's just on the team in 2028. And then this is where, there's definitely variance, but just the amount of guys and, really high prospect guys as well, too. It could be on the international stage, too, a really successful team. And maybe the NBA thing is a little bit different, but you've got Saloon, who was picked by the Hornets this year, who, we have a lot of stock in. Sarr could be on the French national team. Risher Shea could be on the French national team. Koulibaly is already there. And then for this upcoming draft class, of the 2024 class, on Tankathon right now, the number 4 prospect, Nolan Traore, is French. And then the number 16 prospect, Noah Essenu, is also French. So just 2 more lottery guys right in the mix for France this year in this draft. And then you got Ousmane Dieng, Rayan Rupert, Sydney Sissoko, Melvin Agencia, Paycom to Diet. Maybe they bring Yabusele back like we were saying earlier. So all those guys could be on NBA rosters, still on NBA rosters in 4 years, and valuable role players, all-stars, all-NBA, finals MVP for Wemby. Who knows how good this French team is going to be in 4 years. But that's obviously the team that we're really, I think, going to be scared of, at least at this point. And Serbia as well, too. If Nikola can all stay in pretty good shape and continue to get better, especially for Jovic and Topic. Topic as well, too, just getting healthy and getting on the court and figuring out what's going on. Also, Philippe Petrouv is a younger guy on the team this year, contributed. I think he'll stick around, repeat on the national team. So, that familiarity will be nice. Maybe you get Bogdanovic and Micha still there in their sort of last end of the run. But if, France, we took the gold medal from them on their home court in Paris. If 2028, they just came back and took the gold medal from us on our home court, I wouldn't be totally shocked. Well, maybe I would be shocked a little bit, but we'll see how good Wemby is too. If Wemby's just ripping through the league in 4 years, it's like, we don't even stand a chance. I guess of course, you have to wrap this up by me overhyping Wemby. It's just what it is. We could wrap this up by me overhyping Anthony Richardson, but I don't know if I can do that after watching the first couple of throws he threw in the preseason. You gotta shake off the training camp for us. I get it, Anthony Richardson. It's okay. We still have your back. We know the top 10 list. Has there been movement? I'm not gonna say. I'm just gonna say that Anthony Richardson is still our guy, and we still are the number 1 Anthony Richardson fan, with an Ultimate Frisbee segment on Zoom, in Spotify, on YouTube, on Instagram, Rem and Sam podcast. We're still the number 1 Anthony Richardson fan. That is at Rem and Sam podcast on Instagram, and at Rem and Sam podcast across all social media platforms. So stay tuned to the feeds. Give us a follow if you guys haven't. Do all the interactive stuff as well too. If you guys want the likes and the comments are pretty, if you guys want to comment, I know you can comment on the YouTube videos, but comment, I think, on Spotify as well too does it now. I don't know if Apple does, but just mess around with the Spotify one. I want to see how that works as well. But give us a follow. Thank you guys for listening. We'll be back this weekend with Sam. I know, like we're saying, we're in a little bit of a dry spell with sports here, but preseason football is looking like the 6 at the bar late at night, it's like, oh man, I didn't know I was this excited for preseason football, but it is. We got another weekend of it this weekend, and I think we might be time to start diving into football season with Sam. I can't promise anything because we're basketball guys, and inevitably it's just going to end up wandering back over to basketball somehow. But like I said, just stay tuned Friday or Saturday or whenever the episode drops and see what happens. But I think that about does it for this one. Thank you guys for listening.